Hi, and welcome to VIVÉ for Social Adult Day Services programs. My name is Nancy Nyberg, and I am with the Provider Capacity Building and Training Unit under the Office of Change Management within the New York City Department for the Aging. And I will be taking you through this training series. So what I wanted to start with first is that maybe before we begin, you might want to consider having a piece of paper or a notebook, not only to jot down notes if you so want to, but really, maybe times along the way that you may want to return to watch again. What we will try to do is develop a table of contents, which will show certain features that maybe you might want to look for. So you can, go ahead and forward through some of the video or, go back and watch again. So you can look for that as well. So let's get into it a little bit. Our goal for this video is to learn VIVÉ and gain confidence navigating around the system. So that's really where we're going to be focused, which is on how do you navigate. Questions about standards and policies, about, how do I write a note or what do I need to include in a note? Those are better asked of your program director or supervisor or your program officer, who is a really good resource for you as well. Again, we will be focused on the navigation of VIVÉ. How do you get your client data into the system? How do you get it out of the system? That's where we're going to be going. We want to make sure that you're aware that this training is a support for you, but there is other support available that you can access, now. Which the first thing is the knowledge base. That's the top one on the screen. You'll see the URL there on how you can access it. I will also show you towards the end of the video where you can access it right off of VIVÉ. There's also the playground site or training site. That is what I will be using to take you through the system. For the most part, this looks just like the production site. There may be some minor differences along the way, but for the most part, it should mirror what you do in the live environment. And you can see the URL there as well. You will need to have a sign on and a password. And you should be able to get those things if you don't already have it from your program director or supervisor. Again, your program officer is a huge source of support for you. They're going to better be able to help you, apply those standards to the database as they see fit, making sure that you are documenting in a way that it needs to be documented. And then finally, there is the ticketing system, which is also available right off of the production site. We'll see a sample of it on the playground, which I'll be using, like I said. But, the ticketing system is an area on the production site where if you see a problem or you have an issue or something's not working the way that you expected, or you even have an idea of what might make the VIVÉ database even more efficient and effective by using that ticketing system and describing what the concern or issue is. And then the VIVÉ Application Support Center, or VASC, will respond to you and help you work through your submission. So that is some information about how we will also be supporting you. Thought it might be helpful to first see the three drivers of the VIVÉ system. And so the first driver is the menu called the top menu. It's always accessible with a click, no matter where you are in VIVÉ, to access any of the things that you may need to access. The second driver is the details menu that you can consider as the client profile menu, and that contains mostly client information. for the most part. And so we will go through each of these things as we continue to move into the VIVÉ database. And then the last driver is the enrollment menu. This is where more program specific information is found, such as your intake and assessments. And so those are the three menus and drivers, and you'll have a chance and opportunity to see every option here as we go through. So, this is a good time. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the PowerPoint, and when I return, you will see the VIVÉ database up, and we'll start drilling down into its features and functionality. This is the VIVÉ Playground sign-on screen. And so you will need your user ID and your password, which I have already inputted. And you can get them probably from your program director or supervisor if you're not aware of what those are. And then once you have inputted that, you can click on the login button to go ahead and get in. If this is the first time you're logging into the playground, you will go directly to the dashboard. If you've logged in before, you will be taken to the last place that you left off. And so I'm going to begin describing the dashboard. I'm going to start with the top menu, which I just showed you before. And so the first thing is this home icon. We call it the home button. This will take you to the dashboard, which is what we're on right now. Then there's client search. Client search will allow you to search for clients currently in the database. Referral queue is an area where you can see referrals that you have made out to other New York City aging programs and referrals that other New York City aging has made to your program as well. And then program tools. This is where the event profile is, where you will record units for those people that are participating in your program. Um, Admin tools is next. If you don't have that, that would mean that your user ID that you're using is not a program administrator ID, and that's okay. Only program administrators have access to this. Then there is reports. We will go through that when we get through the rest of this on VIVÉ. And then there is this more button here. This means that there are more features. They're not able to fit on this top row. So again, just clicking on that will reveal those additional links. Over to the right, there is a notification bell. And that bell is one way that VIVÉ will contact you. And if you click on the bell, it will show you notifications that has been sent to you to either let you know about changes in the system or actions that you may need to take. Clicking back on the bell will close that. And then here you will see your user ID name. This is my user ID name. Your user ID name may be different than your name. And then you have this down arrow that you can click. This will allow you to have access, again, right to the dashboard, look at your user profile. You can look at your account. Program selection, what that means is if you have access to more than one program, you might need to go or among different programs. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, how you would do that. And then to be able to log out at the end. If you work in more than one New York City aging program for VIVÉ, to switch between or among programs, you would go ahead and click on that program selection link. It will bring up this screen. It will show you what program that you're into. And then if you click here on the available programs, it'll show you the programs that you can switch to should you need to and include data in another program. So that's how that works. I'm going to stay with my program here, and I'm going to click back on that home button to take me back to my dashboard. Another thing that you will see here is again, your username and then the program that you are working in. I'm working in this particular program for this demonstration. And then you'll see the community user dashboard, and it has three parts to it. The first part is what's called My Enrollments. And what My Enrollments is are clients that um, are assigned to me within the system. And so they will all gather here for any assignments that I might have with that particular client. And I'll show you as we go through how that might be helpful in terms of getting around the system for information with that particular client. The second part is called My Follow-ups. And My Follow-ups is, sort of like a reminder. You can create follow-ups to say to yourself, make sure you do this, maybe call a client, call a caregiver, whatever it might be. You can also create follow-ups for other people to follow up on. So maybe you're taking a call and they want to speak with somebody else. You can go ahead and put a follow up in for that person to let them know that that client called. And so over here is the follow up due date, letting me know when I should be taking that action. And then the final section, the third one, is called My Tasks. And this is really more programmatic tasks. So it would include things like annual client, reviews or, any reassessment that is due. So that's a little bit about the community dashboard. We'll see how it interacts with VIVÉ as we go along. The last thing I want to bring up about the dashboard is this refresh button. Sometimes there might be data added to the dashboard, but you're not seeing it. And if that's the case, you just want to click on that refresh button to make sure that you're seeing the latest dashboard. So now what I'd like to do is start with the client search and tell you a little bit about that client search. So again, that's on the top menu. That's where I went to the top, and I'm just going to click on that link, and that will reveal the fields that I can use to search for a client that may be in the database. The first thing you'll notice here is this little red asterisk right next to the words contact type. That means it's required for you to select at least one of these. You can search the client database, the contact database, the professional database, or all three. I'm just going to use the client database for the moment. And I want to show you how some intelligence has been built into the client search feature. So I'm going to just type in the name James into the first name fields. You're required to type at least three characters to start the search, and I'm just pressing the enter key. And what happened is it went out to find, all those names that may have James in it. But also notice not just the first name, but the last name as well. And so if you look here, it's showing you all of the James, so a pretty wide net that it went ahead and got. But not only James, but it's showing Jimmy and Jim. And so this way, it's trying to include as many folks that it possibly could to ensure that we can find the person if they're in the database and prevent from including someone who really is already in the database. And so it knows that Jim and Jimmy might be names that James may be called. And so if it's too wide of a net, you can then include more information to narrow it down to find the person that you're looking for. So one of the things I wanted to start with first is to show you that if you do find somebody in the database how you would bring them in. And so one of the ways that you would do that is, let's just say James' client is a part of going to be a part of our program. How would I go ahead and bring him in? So I would go ahead and just click on his name right here, and that would go ahead and bring up um, this information for me to just make sure that this is indeed the person that I was thinking about, that I have. I can confirm his date of birth. If there was a phone number here, I could confirm the phone number and certainly the address. And then to continue to bring him in, I would need to include the consent. I would need to at least say verbal consent, and then later go ahead and upload that signed consent. So to go ahead and add that verbal consent for the beginning, I would go ahead and click on that new button. It would bring up the new consent dialog box. It's checked as verbal consent. And the reason for that is I'm not uploading anything yet, even though I may have a piece of paper that has been signed. And hopefully you do, because that is required of your program. So I can go ahead and click on that save button. And that will go ahead and bring him in to the database and reveal the rest of the details menu. But what I do need to do is upload that signed consent. I see a consent record was created, the consent to collect data. I would go ahead and click on the consent link to open up and see that information. And as you can see here, it's telling me verbal consent has been granted, but I need signed consent. So how would I do that? Well, what I would do is come down here to the bottom right where it says add document. So I would click on that add document, and the document dialog box opens, and I would say that this is the consent to collect data. The access level is program level always. And then the document title. I could type something, but I'm just going to select it off of the cache from work that I have done previously. The status is active. The other status could be revoked, but at this point, since we're bringing it in, it's only active. And then any description I might want to include. Then I would click on upload files to go and get that document that I have. And so one of the things that I'm going to want to do is click on the documents folder. Here is where I keep my consents. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And here is that consent to collect data. And I will go ahead and open that file. It shows me the file that is uploaded. It's saying it's done, so I'm good to go. And I see the uploaded file right here. And then I can click on that save button. And so a couple of things happen when you do that. It changes the verbal consent and makes it signed consent. It adds records that, verbal consent was the original value, and now it's signed consent. So it includes that. And then I see that consent document uploaded here. I can then edit the status to say, oops, I uploaded the wrong one. Let me make it inactive. And that's not the case. This was the correct one. So I'm going to leave it as active and cancel that, that request. Or I can download it. Perhaps the client would lost their signed copy and would like another one. And so that's how it works. The last thing I want to show you with this, we'll see this again when we bring in a new client who's not in the database, but is now that we have consent to collect data, that person might decide to revoke consent. And if that's the case, you click on that edit button, the consent status opens, and you can then select revoke consent. And if you should do that and then save it, you ask for the consent date, what would happen is that you would no longer have access to any of that person's data. I'm canceling it because I do not want to revoke this person's consent. And what I am going to do now is leave here. My top menu is always available, and I want to go back to the client's search. I wanted to show you how you bring somebody in who's already in the database. What do you do when you have someone who hasn't been put in the database? And so, what I'm going to do is show you that search. So, we have a new client who is going to be a part of the program, and her name is Joanne Brown, and I'm going to go ahead and search for her and see if I can find a Joanne Brown. And I don't. I don't need to put in any more data because I have nothing to look for. We already know there's no one by that name. And then I will go down here to say, yep, I've confirmed there's no match. This isn't a duplicate client. I'm going to check that box, and that will go ahead and open up that button that I can press for new client. The first thing that happens with a new client is it comes up and it says, have you received consent? And I do. I have a signed document from Miss Brown to go ahead and collect her data. So I now will go ahead and put in that information. Again, these are red asterisks, which mean this information is required. To bring anyone into the database, you need three things. You need their name, first and last. You need their date of birth, and you need their home address. So this is what I have to do first to get past the first guardrail to get into the system with my new client. So I'm putting in her name, and now I'm going to go ahead and put in her date of birth. And I can either type it in, or I can go ahead and use the calendar. If you type it, you want to use slashes for the separation between month, day, and year, or you can just click on the calendar. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that there. And what it will do is leave the um, change the date 2 words, such as you see there. Now I'm going to go to home address. And home address, this is a recent search on a home address. So if I recently put in this address, I would see it here. If I don't see the new address there, I can come down here and click on this link, new address, and then go ahead and type in that new address. So this is the address for this person. And I see it here. And I'm going to go ahead and select it, and it will fill out these fields that I wasn't able to type in before. Great. The only field I can include is an apartment or unit number, but this is a private home, so this won't be something that I will be putting in here. So once I have that new address, I click on save, and it will go ahead and save that new address in that home address area. Now, there's also asking for the mailing address. And if the mailing address is the same, I can just click on this checkbox, and that will go ahead and add that new address. So now I have the information that is needed and available. So I click on that save button, and it tells me it created the profile, and it opens up that details menu again that you saw earlier. So a couple of things I want to show you at the top. This is that person's name. They are a client. This is their date of birth. I haven't added a phone number yet. And here is their home address. You can also upload a picture if that is something you want to do. It's not required, but you can do that. And if the client agrees to that happening. And then this button over here, I just want to bring to your attention. This is called Inactivate Client Profile. That button is really meant for anyone who has died and is no longer going to be a part of the system. Once you use this button to inactivate a client profile, what will happen is you will no longer be able to add any information to that record, which makes sense. But just keep in mind that a lot of people don't necessarily add their units and their notes the same day things are happening. So, just make sure that that information has been inputted before you turn that off. And also keep in mind that you may not be the only person that has this client as a part of their program. There may be other programs that may be working with Joanne Brown as well. So just to be mindful of that. And I'll circle back to this when we get to program history. So I'm going to come back to the client profile or the details here, and you can see there are a number of forms. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to go through all these forms with you because they will show you a little bit about how things work in VIVÉ. Um, and so this is a form or a form view. And as you can see, there's no way for me to type in this. So what I need to do is come to the bottom of the screen and click on the edit button. That will go ahead and open up those fields that I can change or add to. And again, you need to notice those uh, red asterisks into what is required. Now, what would be helpful, of course, is to have the client's number. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in. And then you can add any other information that you need. Just so that because you see this, I'm just going to explain that this is a QR code. Any client that is in the database is given a QR code. And right now, QR codes are not used by your program, but you never know in the future, but just so you know what that is. So I'm going to go ahead and press the save button to save that information. Now, anytime I get any additional information, I can easily come back, click that edit button, and update that information. I'm going to go on to social demographics. And again, this is a form view. And so I'll come to the bottom, click on that edit button, and that will go ahead and open up the fields for me to add the information. So you can see here, I'm going to just show you some things here that might be different. I'm going to go ahead and say she's married, and right now she is living with her spouse, and she is braille and disabled, and she has two pets, according to my conversation with her. And so this over here will allow me to select those pets that she owns. Um, and so this is called a multi-selection box. These two boxes are related to each other. The box on the left, which says available, is showing the available selections. So you can think of it almost as if a drop down in a box. And so if I'm understanding that she has the pets cat and fish, I can um, click on the word cat that will highlight it here. And then if I want to click on another selection, in this case, fish, I will hold my control key and then right click, and that will then highlight those two. And so these are the selections that are available, but these are the ones that I want to get over here to show. These are the pets that this person owns. And I do that by clicking on this triangle that points to this box. So I go ahead and click on that, and it moves cat and fish over to this side. So anybody who's looking at this form would know she's married, she has a spouse, she's failed and disabled, and she has these two pets. If I was incorrect that she doesn't have two pets, I can change that to the one pet because I was corrected about that. And if she owns the cat but not the fish, I can highlight that fish and then click on the arrow that points back to return that back to the available selections. And then here, if there were any of the pets that weren't listed here, you could put them right here. So that's how the multi-selection box works. And you can see there are other multi-selection boxes here that you would be able to select multiple selections depending upon how the client defines themselves. I want to show you a kind of trick with the drop downs. I'm going to do that with the languages. So, client's primary language. This is a pretty long list, probably over 200 um, selections here. So, I'm going to go back to the top. So, one way that you can get to a place faster is I know that her primary language is English. So I'm just going to go ahead and click there, and then I'm typing the letter E on my keyboard. And that will allow me to go right to the E's so I can select English, making that journey a little faster for me. And then I can go ahead and just do the other drop downs as required. And so now I have included the language information. And again, here we go with that multi-selection box, more drop downs, the multi-selection box. And so you can continue to update the information based on the information you have gathered. And then you click on that save button. And so I'm going to go to emergency preparedness, which is the next form. This is a conditional form. And so this form will have two things here at the beginning. One is the date that's required. It defaults today. And then it asks whether or not the client consented to share emergency information. And so the selections are yes, she did, or she refused to provide. If she refused to provide, you would just pick that, click on the save button, and you're good to go. But if she did give that information, you could go ahead and click on that yes button, and that will go ahead and open the form to then record the information that would be important should an emergency arrive. Now, again, some of this is being pulled from data that we already entered. You can see even here more with the communication needs. So it'll help cut down on duplicative inputting. And if you needed to change this for any reason, you would go back to social demographics to do that. So most of these are just drop downs based on the responses from the client. And then we would click on that save button. So two more forms to go here. We're going to go to financial, and I wanted to go here because this is a little bit different than the forms we have seen. And so the first thing you need to do is click on that edit button. It's asking for the date, today's date defaults, and then whether or not the client has agreed to provide financial information. If they refuse, you can go ahead and record that. Otherwise, you could say, yes, if you haven't, and I do. So I'm going to go and do that. And then it opens up one more field that I can fill out and then displays other information that tracks the total amount of income, expenses, and asset value. But I do need to put in the household size because putting in the household size will then allow them to, based on data that we input, what is the poverty level. So in their case, there's two of them. There is um, Joanne, and then her husband, Harold. And so once I have that, I just click the save button, and that will reveal three other tabs where I can then start to record the income, the assets, and the expenses. So I'm going to start with income because that's the first tab that's opened. And so this is a list view, meaning that multiple records of information can be recorded. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that new button, and the new income dialog box opens up. And this is going to ask me, whose income are we talking about? So we'll start with the client and what is the source of their income? Well, they have Social Security. That's pretty explanatory. And what is the amount that they get monthly? And so let's say that's $1,300 that they get a month. So I'm going ahead and click the save button, and I see here that record now says 1,300. You might have seen it flash above that it did it successfully. And then also, if you look above the total of household amount yearly, it starts to calculate based on this monthly amount what that would be annually. So you're starting to get a picture of the household finances. If I had the husband's information, I could click on the new button. And then I would say that this is for the spouse. What is their income? Well, they're also getting Social Security. And how much is their income amount? This might be 1,700 that they would get. They click on the save button, and that would go ahead and add that information and also update the total of the household amount. And so right now, their income sits at $36,000 a year. Now, if something should change, I could just go ahead and edit, and so if there's a COLA increase or something else, I could go ahead and click on this edit pencil. These pencils here say these are the fields that you can change. You can click on any of them and you have access to all of those fields. And if this needed to be changed, say I did it wrong, it was 1250, I could go ahead and change that and click on the save button, and then I can go on back by clicking the exit button, and it will go ahead and update the information as well. Should that person no longer be available with their Social Security amount, we could always delete it. So you have that delete button as well. Then we can move on to assets. Assets is anything that is of value, but is not a recurring source of income. And so I can click on the new button, and that will reveal the new asset dialog box. And it's first, who is this being completed for? I'm going to say the spouse. What is the asset type? Well, they own a home, so that's real property. And I can say here that this is their home. And then what is the value of their home? And let's say that is $540,000. I think I typed that right. And then I can click on the save button. And again, it will update the total asset value. And if there's more, I could continue. For expenses, I'm only going to do one. So we'll go ahead and click on that new button because multiple expenses can be recorded. And then we'd say, who are the expenses for? I'm going to say it's the spouse. And then we could say that it is for utilities, and then what type of utilities. So it has a few things here. I'm going to say, let's start with electric, and let's say that their electric is $150 a month. And then I can go ahead and click on that save button, and it will go ahead and put that record there so I can see what those things are and then give me an annual idea that might impact in terms of benefit and entitlements that people may be entitled to. Last form, might as well finish it off. This is NYSOFA, or the New York State Office for the Aging. Additional info screen. You can click on the new button to see what's on the form. This client receiving eligible meals really doesn't have anything to do with your program, so you can ignore it, but you can record whether or not they're a registered voter, and then click on the save button. So that is the client profile. I'm now going to go ahead and look at the consents. I know we saw that when we brought in someone who was already in the database, but we still need to upload the consent for Joanne Brown. And so you'll see the consent record here. You click on that to go ahead and open it up. And again, you'll see that we've only so far documented that we have verbal consent. We need to create that signed consent because if we don't, the VIVÉ will know that and will send notifications that you need to upload that. So to do that, we would go ahead and click on the Add Document button. And then what is the document type? Well, again, consent to collect data. This is always program level who can access it. And then the document title. Again, I'm going to select that out of my cache, and then I can go ahead and upload the file. And so this is the file for Joanne Brown, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that and click on Open. And I see this is the file it's uploading. I'm good to go. I'm going to say done. And then I see that it went ahead and uploaded the file um, um, for me here. I click on the save button, and the same thing that happened last time happens again. This time, it now documents that it's signed consent, putting those records there, and I see the actual document right here that I can either change the status or download. And I have done my due diligence in making sure that I have my signed consent for this client to go ahead and collect data. I just press the exit button to return back to the menu. So I'm back here. I'm going to go on to contacts. And so contacts is a program that will allow you to put in information should you ever need to contact, such as the caregiver or someone else for, information or an emergency. So the way to add that person, because you could have multiple contacts, is you click on the new button, and the first thing it wants you to do is to search the contact database to see if that contact already exists in the system. Since I'm not searching for a client, I will change this to say contact. Notice you can only do one search type at a time. And then I can go ahead and put in the name of the person. So Harold is the person that I'm looking for. And so their last name is Brown. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the search. Now, I didn't mention earlier, but this is also true for the client search. You can also include an address if you need to by clicking here, and unclicking it will hide it. So I'm just going to press that search button again just to make sure I didn't disturb anything. And Harold Brown is not in the contact database. So I'm going to say yes, there is no match. And that opens up the new contact. So I go to the new contact screen. Now, the only piece of data that's required on this screen is the first and last name. So I'm going to put that in for sure. But I do have more information, so I'm going to put in the date of birth. I know the gender is male because I met him when I met Joanne. I'm going to click on male. I do have an email address for him. And I have a cell phone for him as well. And then I have his home address, which would be the same as Joanne's. And so this is her home address. It shows up in my recent addresses. So I can go ahead and select that, making it much easier for me. And then I can go ahead and click on this box that says, yes, the mailing address is the same. And then I can click on that save button. And that will bring up about the relationship between these two. And so it's asking me, what is the contact, Harold Brown's relationship to the client? Well, that is the husband. So I'm going to click on the H and I go right down to husband. And then the contact type. Well, these are mostly professionals, not all, but mostly professionals. And in this case, this would be an informal support. The care support type. So he is not a primary care receiver. Actually, it's the opposite. So I'm going to say it's not applicable. And then this contact does have extra key to client's home, and that, yes, this person is the primary emergency contact for the client. And then I can put any comments I want here. Just keep in mind, any comment that you do put here, you would want to be aware that if Joanne Brown exists in any other program, maybe she was a member of an OAC, um, maybe she goes to other programs, they would see that comment. I just wanted you to know that that is the case, and you click on that save button. And so then now you see, Harold Brown here. Now, if you needed to call Harold Brown for some reason, what you would do is click on here. That would open up the record and then just hover over his name here. And you would see the phone number right here. Now, if you needed to change the phone number because you had it wrong, you would click on his name, and that would go ahead and open up that contact information, and then just go ahead and click on that edit button, and that would give access to the cell phone where I could update the cell phone address or any other information that I would need on this person to be able to contact them when needed. And then I click on that save button. It goes ahead and brings it back. And now I would like to return to my details menu. So to do that, I'm going to hit my back button here twice, because each time I hit it, it will take me to my previous screen. And I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm back here. I'm going to go ahead and click on general comments. Now, general comments is a place where you can make note, but again, keep in mind that anybody who has Joanne Brown would see the general comments, but there might be a general comment that might be of help for people to know, but you would make that decision. If you wanted to go ahead and put in a general comment, you could click on new comment, and you might say, pacemaker. And then go ahead and click on save. And this would, remind people that this person wears a pacemaker. I'm going to skip referrals, enrollments, and unit entry right now because you would never use this actual unit entry on this level. You'll put in units in another place, but referrals and enrollments, I'm going to skip. Documents is also on the enrollment menu, the third driver. And I'm going to show you documents there because that's where you should upload any documents that you have on Joanne. But I am going to show you program history and profile update history. Program history is what's going to show you any other program that Joanne Brown may be in. And so this would be important before you press that inactivate client profile button. Is she enrolled in any other program? Because I might want to alert them about my information, and also to see, and when you do any kind of general comments, what you might be doing. So that's program history. And now I'm going to look at profile update history, which is right next to that tab. And that shows you any changes that I might be making to their profile, who did it and when. Because again, if Joanne is involved in other programs, they have access to that profile update too. And this way you can see if anyone updates certain information. So that brings me to come back to the referrals menu, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. In my conversation with Joanne and Harold, it seems that Joanne could really benefit by some of the services that case management offers. So I'm going to refer her to a case management agency. And the way to do that is to click on New Referrals. Now, for the referral form, can only be used to send people from the database to another New York City aging funded program that's working on VIVÉ. So in that case, you would want to use this to alert people. Ignore this because this is not an external agency outside of the New York City Aging funded network. And then this is where you would select where that client is going. So you can go ahead and click on the down arrow or the field, and then you would see what programs are available to you to go ahead and refer that person. So in my case, I'm going to click on the Case Management Agency CASC because that would be the one that would service this family on case management. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then I might write a comment that Ms. Brown would benefit from home delivered meals and some home care. And then I could say here, the service is requested. Again, a multi-selection box. So I might click on the case management and then take a look if there's anything else that makes sense for me to select. And so, no, that seems to be about covering it. So I want to put it over here saying these are the services I'm selecting. And then I am good to go. So I can go ahead and click Save. Now, you might be thinking, well, don't you need a consent to refer? And that's exactly what it's, letting me know. So I can go here and to create that consent to refer right here as I do this referral. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that button and it brings me up that dialog box. I'm going to click on verbal consent because that is what I have for this client. I actually have a signed consent to refer and share form, but I make sure I have the right referral program. I click on save and it goes ahead and it creates that consent successfully for me. And now I can go ahead and refer Miss Brown to that case management agency, and it's telling me it did create that consent. And then I see that record right here. Now, two things happen when I create a referral. One is it created the consent for me. So we're going to have to look at that and upload the consent. The other thing is I want to go to the referral queue and look at that as well because a record is added there. And I just wanted to show you that. Let's start since we're on the details menu with consents. So I'm going to click on the consents tab. And now you'll see that there's not only consent to collect data, but there's also consent to refer and share. So now I need to upload that consent. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that button. And you'll see here's the verbal consent. I need that signed consent. And I want to upload that document. So I'll go ahead and add the document. And then it's telling me what is the document type. Well, that's this one here, a little different. This is the program level. And then I can put the document title, whatever makes sense for you to do. I'm just going to say case management cast. So I'm doing a little shortcut there to put that in. And then I want to upload the files. I go to my computer where my files are stored, and I'm going to select this is the one for Joanne Brown. Click on that open button, shows me what it's uploading. I'm good to go there, and I see it's here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that save button. And that does what it was doing before, which was to change the verbal consent to now be signed consent. And I see those records added here. And I go ahead and I see that information and the document title It also has the referral program and it will track that. It's unlikely you would refer this client again there, but it knows that you've done that and you would not be required to get consent for that as well. So I'm going to exit and I want to show you one more thing about consents because not all referrals happen within New York City Aging program. You may be referring to, I don't know, Medicaid, which is not part of New York City Aging. So if you're doing that, this is how you create that referral form. You can click on New and it brings up the new consent form. The consent type is not to collect data, but consent to refer and share. And then this is only New York City Aging programs. So we want to come over here and say this is for an external program and it is another agency. And then we can say this is for Medicaid. And then I can go ahead and click on that save button and it will go ahead and create that consent showing over here that I have it for Medicaid. And then I would come back here because again, I only have the verbal. I have to upload that document. I would go ahead and add consent and I would put in the consent to refer and share. And then I would say the document title. I could say Medicaid uh, non-Medicaid denial documents. Um, no, this is the right one. I'm in the wrong area. Document title. This is what I wanted. Sorry, I was still here. This is the one I want, program level, and then document title might be Medicaid application. And then I can go ahead and upload that file. Here it is. Click on done. And then I go ahead and I click on that save button. So there you have it. That's one way to get that Medicaid application um, uh, uh, consent to refer and share into the system. Um, Now you could, since you had this one, you could have put in for the document title, you could have said for CASC and Medicaid, just so you know, um, if that was one document that those things were added and signed. So you could do that as well. So that is the consents. We did everything else here. We were still with referrals. So I'm going to go to the referral queue. That's on the top menu, and I'm going to click on referral queue. And what you will see is one of the views of the referral queue. And so these are showing, this is referrals shared by my program. These are showing referrals that went out to other programs. And as you can see here, they all seem to go to the same program. And here's the record for Joanne Brown. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I want to show you some other views. And so there are referrals that are accepted, referrals pending or acknowledged, and referrals rejected. These all three are linked together because they really have to do with referrals that come into the program. Now, you may not have a lot of referrals coming in, but wanted to go through this just in case you do receive one, and you should check your referral queue every so often. So I'm going to start with the referrals pending or acknowledged first, because once you see that, you'll understand more about the accept and rejected. So these are a list of people that have been sent by these programs. So mostly, not all, mostly caregivers, but one from Vision, mostly the JCC, and also a caregiver in Manhattan. So let's say that we want to look at this one to start working on that in terms of how are we going to handle it. So one of the things is that once I open the referral details, I see who the contact person is, and other information. Maybe they have some notes for me about that. But one of the first things I can do with one of these three buttons is to acknowledge. When I acknowledge, that is telling the referring agency, the caregiver, Hamilton Madison House in Manhattan, that I've received their referral and I'm working on it. So that's the first thing I would do and click on that. And that would at least let them know, you got it, I'm working on it. Then the next thing I would need to do is find out whether Mike Schmidt would be a good fit for this program. So I would go ahead and click on his name, and then that would bring up information about him, where he lives, what his cell phone number is, and if that will make sense. So once I have contacted Mike Schmidt and done my due diligence to understand whether he would be a good fit for the program, I then have a choice that I accept him into the program or I reject him in the program. Now, there's one other thing that you can do, and that's this tab here with notes. You can check here to see if any notes came along with the client, and you could even send a note back if you needed to. So I'm going to go back here to the referral details. And if I were to say, no, Mike Schmidt's not a good fit for the program, I would click on the reject button. I would say why, or maybe it's just other, maybe it doesn't represent it here, but you would say why you are rejected him. And then what is the reason for that in words? And you have a little bit of space to be able to do that. Anytime you see these lines here on the right corner of a text box, you can drag it open. I'm going to cancel that because I am not going to reject Mike Schmidt. I'm going to instead accept Mike Schmidt, and I go ahead and say that referral has been accepted. And what that will do is it will give me a button to go ahead and create that enrollment and bring him in the program. So I'm going to show you that with Joanne Brown. But just so you know, the next step would be to go ahead and enroll him. And then you would have access to what you'll see in a minute. I want to go back to our original Joanne Brown. So I'm back to my referral shared by my program. And just so you could see, here's referrals accepted, and we would see here's Mike Schmidt that we went ahead and we accepted. Okay, and then that status is changed to accepted. If I go back to my referral shared to my by my program and look at Joanne Brown, I can go ahead and click on that. So a couple of things that I can do. One is if they change their mind, Joanne changes her mind, I can cancel that referral. But I can also write a note, and I could say to, the program, caregiver overwhelmed. And then I could put, um, if you can make this a priority, it would be helpful to this couple and call me at, and then I could do something like that. However you communicate with the other programs is what you want to do, and you can go ahead and click save, and they can get back to you. It's not necessary that you make a note, just know that you can do that. I'm going to go back to the referral details and then show you a little trick. I want to go back to Joanne Brown, and I can do that by clicking on her hyperlink name. Anytime I click on a client's hyperlink name, that will take me right to the details level. And so the last thing to show you is this enrollment page. And so this is how we go ahead and bring Joanne Brown into our program so that we can go ahead and put her in a group and claim units for her. And so this is where it begins that way. I click on new, and then I click on that save button. And that will go ahead and not only enroll her in the program, but will now give me access to the enrollment menu. And you can see here these statuses that we just put in about the enrollment, that she's an active enrollment. This would show anything if they came from another New York City aging through the referral queue. This is on hold details. I'll explain that in a minute because I do understand you do put clients on hold. And then when we should terminate the client, close the enrollment, we would see information there. And so that's about the enrollment. If we go back to the top, you'll see there are three buttons here, the assign worker, the on hold, and the enclosing enrollments. Now, when it comes to closing enrollments, um, I'm just going to show you, but we'll actually close this enrollment before we leave. It needs the closing date, the closing code, and then to type a little bit more about the reasons, the justification of what has happened. So I'm going to click on cancel. I'm not going to put the client on hold, but if you were, you click on the on hold button, and then when is that service going to go on hold? Maybe it's going on starting next week, and say it's going to go on until November the 3rd, and then you could say that, client on vacation. And then you would click save, and then I'm going to take a chance and do it. I'm going to go ahead and do it so you can see it. The client enrollment is scheduled on hold, and it gives you here that it is on hold. I can edit that on hold button. I can remove that on hold, provided it hasn't started. If I did it today, I would not be able to remove it. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to remove that on hold button. And that's how it works. And that would, track in the system that that person is going to be on hold during those times. And the assigned worker. How the assigned worker works is you see over here where it says assigned to. It will track on our all reports that this person is assigned to this client. I'm going to go ahead and sign myself so you can see how it works with the dashboard. And I did that. As you can see right here, I've been assigned. Now, who assigns the worker? That's up to the program. It's not required that you do it. Um, but it can be helpful for navigation reasons. So it could be that the program director assigns. It could be that the worker assigns. So whatever makes sense to do. It may be that there's multiple people handling the records. So you have to decide what makes sense to do. But let me just show you how it works. So now that I have it assigned, I'm going to go to the dashboard. I'm going to click on that home button. And now this is where my enrollments are. Now you don't see Joanne Brown yet. I'm going to click on that refresh button. And it's still refreshing. Taking a long time. Here it is. It doesn't usually take that long, but here is Joanne Brown. So now I see she was enrolled today, and this is the date her service started. Now, now that she's on my enrollments, one of the ways that I can access Joanne Brown's information, if I needed to update an address or a phone number or whatever it might be, I can just click on her name and I go right to the details menu. That will, not require me to go into client search and then click on Joanne Brown. I'm just going to click on Joanne, see what comes up. Here's on Joanne Brown, and then come in that way. And then if I needed to go to the enrollments menu, I would have to then click on one more time. So if I go back to the enrollments screen where Joanne Brown is, if I just click on this link here, I come right back to the enrollments menu. So it's a shortcut for you, as well as allowing you to see at one glance who are all the people that are a part of your case assignment. So that's the assignment. Now I'm going to go through most of these things with you. I'm going to click on the forms. This is where you would see the participant intake. And this is a multiple that you can either add to, or should they come in and out of your program, or you can edit if necessary. So we'll start with the first Social Adult Day participant intake. Click on that edit button, and then you have to pay attention to those red asterisks. What is the intake date? Well, that's today. And then you can continue who's the primary caregiver. That's coming from the contacts. And so you would just go through and update those things that are required you to do, and based on your um, conversation with that person. And so let's say that she uses um, cane. Okay. And then you would type in, I'm not going to type all of this, but you can see a lot of this is required. So you're going to have to go ahead and add that information based on the information that you gathered. And then you can save it, which would save it and leave you on the form, or save and exit, which would save it and return you to the previous screen. I'm just going to go ahead and press the cancel button. And then if you had saved it, you would have that um, intake right here for you to see. And now I'm going to go to assessments. And so what you have to do first to get at the assessment is to create an assessment. Makes sense that there aren't any assessments because of the fact that, um, Joanne Brown is new to your program. So we're going to create our first assessment. It defaults the type. It's the initial. It gives you today's date. And you click on that save button. And that will go ahead and open up that first assessment, saying that the assessment is now pending. And this will also give you access to forms. Now you notice here are those pencils again. These are the fields that you can change if the assessment date is wrong. And then when you complete it, we can change it to complete. If you created this assessment in error, you can do inactive. But we want to leave it pending for now because it is pending. And I'm just going to cancel. And this will open up to the forms that are available as part of the assessment. So it starts with the adult daycare plan. And then you would go ahead and fill out that information based on what you know about the client or have been able to find out, um, and whether or not they need transportation. Here is another red asterisk. So meals and snacks that will be provided by the adult daycare. So it's going to be lunch, and any food allergies they may have. And then you would click on the save and exit button because that will allow you to see what you just did, and enter new if you need to. The participant plan scheduled, also a list view, so multiple can be added. You click on the new button, maybe things might change between now and the day, and then you would say what days of the week that they are going to be coming. Um, and then what is the effective date? Let's say they're going to start on Monday, and then they're going to be in person. And then where is that coming from right now? New York City Aging Funds, because they don't have Medicaid yet. And these are the planned hours. So there's 6 hours in the day. And if the participant has a home attendant, they don't have a home attendant. You're looking to try to get that. And so then save and exit. Um, then the adult daycare task list. And so this would come from your assessment with the With the older adult, what is the date that they came and visit? Say the 17th. And then you would go ahead and select, what do they need, need help with, who provides the assistance. And then you would continue to do that for each of these particular um, items, medications, mobility, toileting. And then as you've updated it, hopefully I didn't skip any asterisks, you can go ahead and click on the Save button. So I encourage you to explore these forms. And then finally, the Goals button. Again, most of these are list views. Multiple records can be added. And then what is the goal of the person? What are they hoping to do? Maybe they want to meet new people, make friends. Perhaps also they're looking to do creative arts, as an example. And then were these goals set by that person? And then, the expected outcome, and interventions, how is the program going to help? What are maybe some instructions? And then since the last assessment, how has the participant changed? The evaluation, how did it go? And the goal comments. So those are the 4 forms that you have available to you. And so that is how your assessment works. And so then once you have that assessment, I'm going to go ahead and create a case note. And so to get back to the enrollment menu, I'm going to click on the linked enrollment here, and that returns me back. And I see that my assessment, is pending here. I'm going to skip event sign up. I'm going to show you that before we go into the event profile, but I'm going to come here and do case notes. And so case notes, when you first click on it, you will see there's a from and to. You can go ahead and look at case notes between a certain period of time. When you want to write a new case note, you can go ahead and click on new case note. Today's date defaults. If that's the service date, you can go ahead and do that. And then who did you have contact with? In this case, it would be the client. Its status is a draft status. At some point, your case note should be made final. If you wrote the case note in error, you could make it inactive. And then the note type. Why are you writing this note? You would go ahead and put that in. And so we're going to select assessment, and then the subject, would be initial assessment. And then I would go ahead and type the notes, you know, um, Miss Brown met with the staff today for an, however you would do that. And you have 10,000 characters to go ahead and do that information. Just a side note, just keep in mind that you have 20 minutes before the VIVÉ will close on you. VIVÉ and most databases don't recognize typing as actions. It needs to see an action, and an action is like clicking on things. So if you're just typing in here after 20 minutes, it will close, just so you know. The last thing I want to talk to you about here is this thing about shared with other programs. You do not share your notes with other programs. Maybe in the future you might, but you don't. So you should unclick this box. It's a good best practice to do. And then you can click on that submit button, and that will go ahead and create that initial assessment note for you. You can also print case notes, and you can do that by going ahead and clicking on that print case note button. It will go ahead and open that up, and you can see the case note. If the note was longer, you would see the entire note, and then you can either download it or printed, depending upon what your needs are. And then go ahead and click the X when you're done. You can also print case notes to and between two dates. The other thing that I think is pretty neat is that these columns are movable. So if you have things that aren't as important to you, you can kind of collapse them and then you can open things that are more important to you. Another thing that it can do is you see here this down arrow, it can wrap text for you so you can go ahead and read the whole note. And then finally, there is this arrow, and each of these arrows are in the column headings, and that will allow you to go ahead and sort by ascending or descending order that column type. So those are case notes. I'm going to go to unit entry. And so this is for units that you would get for your client that really aren't about participation in your adult day program. So I would click on new here, and that goes ahead and it opens up the unit entry. The date of occurrence would default to today. You can change it if you need to. And then what is the service type? And so this is caregiver assistance, adult day services, case coordination, client assessment, transportation. And so in this case, it would be client assessment. Now, once I pick that service type, it will automatically select the unit type. Those two are tied together. I can continue to put the host type. This would be an in-person assessment. And then the funding source, I click in that field and I select my funding source. And now, since this unit type is hour, it needs to know the time spent as opposed to the total units. So it grays that out. And so then I would put the time spent, which in this case would be 180 minutes. Now, if the service type is different, you would put in a different um, total of units or time spent. So just to show you that, I'm going to change it. I'm going to go and see what case coordination is also by the hour. Adult day services is by the hour. Assistance, transportation. Okay. So transportation is by one-way trip. And so then you would just put in the units, which may be 1 unit. I'm not sure what you do. It doesn't necessarily need the time spent. That asterisk is removed and you need to, it opens up the units field. So when I go back to client assessment, it will put the asterisk here that I have to put in the time spent, and it will automatically go ahead and convert it. Since this is 3 hours, I'm getting 3 units, a unit an hour. And then I can put in any service comment that would make sense based on this particular units that I am adding. Now, down here is case notes. And this is a way to link your case note to the unit. And so any case note that isn't linked to a unit will show here. I only have one case note for this particular client. And this is the case note that is associated with this unit. So I will go ahead and check this box, and that will link those two things together. Now, once I have that unit, I click on Save, Unit NG Funding Source. I must have lost my funding source, so let me go ahead and put that in when I change the service type. So that these are some of the things that VIVÉ will do is catch those errors and then go ahead and click on the Save button. It went ahead and created the unit for me, and then I see it right here. My units, I did it on the enrollment menu. And I'll talk about the draft status in a minute. So I can see right here that my my entry was successful. Now I could change it if I needed to. I can come back in and I can change the time spent. I had the wrong amount of time. I could say 150, and it will adjust, my units. If I have the wrong note, I can unlink it and select the right notes, or I can link it again. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that you cannot delete units. So if this unit was created in error, you can void the unit. This would zero out the unit. You would see the record, but with 0 units. The last thing I want to talk about is a status full draft, and you cannot change it. This status gets changed by a special program that's generally run by your leadership, your program director, or their designee. But you will see that before we leave, before we finish this video today. So that is units that are done when you are working one-on-one with a client. And so I'm going to cancel that. I didn't update it, so my 3 units are still there for that 180. Now that I've done the assessment, I've done the case note, I've done the unit entry, I might want to put a follow-up to myself because it's now the end of the day. It's 5 o'clock, and I want to remind myself that I should alert my program director that this has been completed. So to write that follow-up, I could click on New Follow-up Request, and it automatically defaults to that it's assigned to me. I can change that if that makes sense, but I do want this follow-up to be for me. It wants to know, when do I want to follow up? Well, I'm going to follow up on Monday. What time am I going to follow up? I'm going to follow up at 9 o'clock in the morning when I come in, and then the subject would be to, remind program director assessment complete. And then I can put any other information. It's not required, but this may be helpful if you're assigning it to somebody else. And then go ahead and you can submit that follow-up. It shows down here with an open status, about the follow-up. And I want to show you how it works with the dashboard. So I'm going to go up here to the dashboard. I clicked on that home button to take me there, and I'm going to go down to the follow-ups. And you can see that I do not see the follow-up that I just wrote. And so I want to hit that refresh button, and hopefully it won't take as long as last time, and it didn't. And now you can see here that here is the reminder for me to go ahead on Monday the 20th to do that. And so once Monday comes and I've done that, I can go ahead and take that off of my follow-up list. Here are those pencils for those things that I can edit. So I'm going to click on one of them, which will give me access to all of them, and I could say I've completed it. If I created an error, I can make it inactive. I can also assign it to somebody else. But I'm going to complete this one. I'm going to click on the save button, and I'm going to hit my exit button. And even though my follow-up is still there, I know I'm going to need to hit my refresh button. And it needs a minute to do that. So let me go to the enrollments menu and show you that it shows completed here, and that it will drop off of my enrollment and my follow-up on the dashboard. Let me go back. I hope I'm not rushing it. But I'm going to go back and see if I can now click that refresh button. And it looks like enough time has elapsed, and it drops off of my follow-ups. Now I'm going to go back to the enrollment menu with Joanne Brown. So I'm going to click on that enrollment link, and I'm back to where I was today. Now, here is contacts again. These are the same contacts that's on the details menu. I have easy access here. I'm going to show you how do you upload a document if you keep documents for clients, maybe applications, financial data. And any client that you have, if you have documents, you should be using this documents on the enrollment menu to upload. So I'm going to click on Add Documents, and then it's going to ask me what kind of documents am I uploading. So I'm going to upload some financial documents. Again, this is only program level. And then I might say financial and banking information. That's in my cash, so I'm just going to take it. And then I can include any description. I could say what bank it's from. I'm going to go ahead and click on Upload Documents. And then these are the documents I want to upload. I click on the Open button. I see it coming up. It's done. It's good. I see it's been uploaded here. And I click on that Save button. And then that financial document is here, in which case I can edit the status if this document is no longer an active document, or I can download it for whatever the reason is. And then there's status history. Status history will show me the enrollment history of the client. And so you can see here, the client was active on this date. When I close the enrollment, I will see when that enrollment was closed. And if I see any on hold information, I would see it here as well. Now that the assessment has been completed, one of the things I want to do is then go ahead and complete the assessment, because it's still saying the status of this assessment is pending. So I clicked on the assessment tab, and now I'll click on this button here to go ahead and open up that assessments. And now I can go ahead and complete the assessment. Um, so what I can do is change it to completed. And I just select it, and that's it. And if today's date is the assessment complete date, I can leave it blank. If it's a different date, I would need to enter it. But when I leave it blank, it will go ahead and put in today's date. Now, once you complete the assessment, all of the forms you can view, but you cannot change or edit. So if I click on this goal, I will not have an edit button to go ahead and edit it, but I can see it. The other thing I want to let you know, I'm just going to click on cancel, is, and going to go back to um, we're going to go back to the enroll assessment. Um, and as long as it's completed, I can create a new assessment. So if it's time for assessment, reassessment, I can do that. And one of the things I didn't mention is that it will go ahead and create the next reassessment date. So let me go in and show you that. And so here is the reassessment due date once I put in the complete that the system will track. Now I'm going to go back here, which is where I see the assessment headings. And I can create a new assessment at time of reassessment, or I can do what they call clone the previous assessment. And so when you have a completed assessment, you will see the clone button here within the assessment details. And that will go ahead and copy all of the forms so that you can do the next, assessment. Um, so to do that, you click on the clone assessment button, and it says, "You sure you want to do this?" And if you do, you click on yes, and that will go ahead and it will start a new assessment that is pending with the follow-up assessment as the reason, with the start date as of today, and you have the ability to change that if you need to. It will also give you access to those forms. So if you click on the forms, you can see how it made a copy of the previous form. Now, this is the form from the last assessment, and I know that by the assessment ID. This assessment ID is 2723. This assessment ID is two, 202724, and I can see that right up here. If I go into this assessment, I'm not going to be able to edit or change it because that has been completed. But I can edit the new one that was copied. So I can click on here. And if there's anything new or changed about this assessment, I can then go ahead and change that information. And so if the participant is not able to self-direct, I can change that to no. Whatever it might be. If everything is still the same, then I'm good to go. The other thing I want to mention to you is sometimes, and this may not be true for this form, but sometimes it may be too hard to unclick and re-click other things that you can just reset the form and blank it all out to start again. You hit the reset button. It says, are you sure you want to erase all data? You can say yes. And then that will give you a clean form to go ahead and create those new pieces of information for this particular assessment. If you hit the reset button by mistake or figure, no, I should have had it the way it was, I can hit that cancel button and that will go ahead and set it all back to the way it was. So that is how the clone works. I'm going to hit cancel to go back, and that takes you through the entire assessment process. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the linked enrollment to take me back to the enrollment screen. So now we've hit everything except for the event sign up. So I'm going to click on event sign up. And what the event sign up will allow you to do is when you're in the client, you can sign her right up for the program that she is a part of. And so to do that, you can go ahead and click on that edit button, and that will show you those events that you have available. I'm just going to open this up so you can see better. And this these are things that are there. Again, this is the playground. You may not have multiple. It depends on how you do it. You could have a SADS attendance by day, or you can have a SADS attendance that you take every day. So it's up to how you do it. I'm going to put it for a SADS attendance that's taken every day. And I'm going to select that and click on the save button. And now Joanne Brown has been added to this event so that we can start to collect units for her participation. Should she leave this one, we would see that down here that she was once in it, but she's no longer active in it. So that is how the event sign up works. You can sign people up here, or you can actually sign them up in the event profile. So let me go up to the program tools to show you how the event profile works. And so these are the same three event profiles we just saw in the event sign up. This is the one we signed that person up for. So I would click on the SADS attendance, and it would show me the information about this particular event profile. So I'm going to show you a new one. So I won't go through this right now. I'm just going to go to the event sign up. So these are all of the people that are signed up for this event, including our Joanne Brown. So two things to notice. One is the enrollment start date, and the other is the event sign up date. And so you can see for everyone, most of them have been in September, except for Joanne, as well as the event sign up date here. If you needed to add more people that weren't added, you can click on the edit button, and that will reveal people that have not been added yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and add Donna Brown to demonstrate about the event sign up date and how that works with events. So I'm clicking on Donna Brown, and that goes ahead and adds her. Now I can also search for people here. I'll show you that next. Let me just go through this. So Donna Brown is now being added. I'm clicking on the save button. And I see that Donna Brown is now a piece of this as well as our client, Joanne Brown. So now I want to add units. And so there are already some units here, but I want to add units for yesterday. So I'm going to click on new. And the date of occurrence defaults as today. Yesterday would be the 16th. And I see all of my people, including Donna Brown and Joanne Brown. If I change it to yesterday, what will happen is that Donna Brown and Joanne Brown fall off. And the reason for that is that their event sign up date was October the 17th, and we are going to get credits for October the 16th. And what VIVÉ is saying is that how can you give credits, units, for someone who didn't sign up until October the 17th when you're trying to give units for October the 16th. So let me show you how you work with that. So I'm just going to click on the cancel button. This takes me back so that I can now have access to the event sign up. And so here is all of the people that are a part of this program. And so here is Donna Brown, and here is Joanne Brown. Now, Joanne Brown only enrolled on 10/17, so changing her sign up date doesn't make sense because both the enrollment date and the sign up date needs to be on the date of the event of occurrence or earlier. Donna Brown was already enrolled in the program, but her sign-up date was today, and she did attend yesterday. So what I can do is go over here, click on this down triangle, and I'll see this edit button. I'm going to click on edit, and I can go ahead and change her enrollment date to, I'm sorry, her sign-up date to be yesterday so that she can get the credits because she did indeed attend the program yesterday. Now I can go back to unit entry. I can click on that new button. I can change the date of occurrence to be yesterday. And Donna Brown remains, but of course, my client, Joanne Brown, is still not eligible because she doesn't start until the 20th. And so now I can go ahead and add, the units for the folks that attended, and I can do it in one or two ways. I can go ahead and select each one and do that, or I can use the autofill. And so I can put in the funding source. I can put in the number of units that they are supposed to have, and then I can click on autofill, and that will go ahead and put in that information for everyone. If some people didn't attend, say Gower Champion wasn't there, I can just unselect him. Whatever seems to be easier for you to get the units that you need. I can also do a search. So if I had a very long list, which I don't, I could go ahead and say Tommy and click on filter, and then that would show me Tommy, and then I could remove him if that was the case. And then once I have the units the way that I need the units, I can then go ahead and click on that save button to go ahead and credit us for the work that we did. And you'll see that right here, it goes ahead and gives me those units for those 9 clients. So let me show you one more time how that works. I'm going to go back to Program Tools. I'm going to do a new event profile, and I'm going to make this, we have Friday and Monday, so I'm going to say SADS for Tuesday, just so that I can demonstrate this. I'm not going to put in an end date. What an end date would do, usually this is future. At the day after the end date, it will close the event. I can put a start and end time. You don't have to. And then you would put the host type. In this case, it would be in person, but if you do something different, you can do that. And then the service type. And so this would be adult day services. And that unit type would be hour. Since it's happening at the program site, it goes ahead and puts in the address and then the event capacity. If you have an event capacity, you can put it in. But just keep in mind, if you put in 20 and you have 21 people, it won't allow you to add it. So that's totally up to you. If there's any fee collected, which I don't think you have, you would put it here, and then you could go ahead and click on that save button. So now I have SADS Tuesday. I just want to make sure that I say this, and I may not have. Just be really mindful when you put in the event name and the service type, because you can't change those. You would have to make this inactive and start again. So once you have that event the way you need it, you would then sign people up for that event. And then you come to event sign up, sort of looking like that event sign up that we saw earlier before Joanne Brown was added to the SADS one. So we would go and click on the edit button. This will go ahead and bring up every active client you have in your program. And so now the way you can sign them up, you can click here and that will go ahead and sign up everybody at one time. If you unclick it, it will remove everybody at one time. You could also search by name. So we could put in a J and then I would find these folks and I can add them that way. Whatever makes sense for you to do in terms of getting them. If you do use this client that clicks, let me get rid of the J. If you do use this portion of it, just know it's done by page. We have not even a page here, but you would go ahead and click to sign up everybody, and then you would go to the next page and come back here and click again. So I've just signed up everybody and I go ahead and I click on the save button. And now everybody is enrolled with the event sign up date of today. If that's not the case, I would need to go ahead and edit that sign up date. And then I can add my units. I can click on new. And I'm going to leave the date of occurrence as today because that's when everybody signed up. And again, I can do this one at a time. I can search for folks or I can use the autofill. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my units for each of the persons and then click on the autofill. And then if anybody didn't come, I can remove them as needed. Then I can hit that save button. And it will go ahead and create that entry for units where we had 12 clients and now I'm getting 72 units, which makes sense. Everybody got 6 units. If I was wrong about that person who should have received a unit, I can come back. I can check that box. I can put in the funding source. I can make sure that the units are correct. And I can go ahead and click on save. And now it will show me that I have 13 clients with a total of 78 units. And again, this is in draft status and the sources event as opposed to the enrollment menu. So that's how events work. Now I want to come back to Program Tools, and you see that I have that here. And if at any point you should put in an end date or change the status, it would then show up in the inactive area. So now I want to go to monthly unit summary. You can see that there is one here for the month of September. So monthly unit summary will go ahead and go out and get all of your units. So I'm going to click on the new button um, for a specific month. You can do backwards, but you can't do forwards. And so since we're in the month of October, I can do that. It requires the month and it requires the year. And I'm going to go ahead and say calculate those units. And what that will do is it will go through and find those units by the service type to start giving you a picture of how things are going. And so the big kahuna here is your adult day services. And this will show you, in this case, so far we have 122 units and where this all came from. We also have 3 units in client assessment. That's what we created as we went through this today. And I can see that here. If I want, more information, so you hear the source enrollment and event, right? We did this through event profile. We did this on the enrollment menu for the client. If I want to know who the client is, I can click on that link, and then that will go ahead and open it up, show me that that is Joanne Brown. If I needed more information, I can click on the notes, for example, and that will go ahead and open up the notes that I could read if that makes sense, to do. So I can go ahead and close these tabs because you may not have seen that additional tabs were open when I looked at the notes and when I looked at the units. And now I am back to my monthly unit. Now, at the end of the month, when you're done with all of your work and you have now put the um, the units to New York City Aging or showed it to your internal sources, whatever it might be, you would then finalize it. Now, this isn't going to happen necessarily on November 1st for October. It takes time to do all of this, but the purpose of doing this is to prevent anyone from accidentally adding units for October. Because once you do that, you can no longer edit units for this month, nor will you be able to add units for that month. And so the only person who should be doing this is the program director or their designee. I'm letting people know that what happens is that you will see that this is changed to final. Once it's changed to final, you cannot edit that or change it. And so I'm going to ask you on the playground, please don't make them final because then nobody can go ahead and do it for that month. But you can save it, and that's what I'm doing now. I just went ahead and saved for the month of October, and so now I have 2 months out there. So we're going to see a little bit more in a minute in terms of units through the reports. But that is just about all of VIVÉ. I'm going to go through a little bit more, and then I'm going to show you how you close an enrollment. So I'm going to finish out program tools here. This is survey invitation links. This is just some groundwork that's being laid. You have to do an annual client satisfaction survey. And so the hope is that they can add things to that here. And then there's that ticketing module that I spoke about in the beginning. Again, this is not hooked in to the VASC or the VIVÉ Application Support Center, but it is on the production site. But you can see a little bit about how it works. You want to create a new ticket. You click on that new ticket. It puts today's date. If you're working with a client that seems to be problematic, please include the client information. This is the category that you can choose from: data issues, error messages, um, policy and procedure, feature requests. Maybe something's missing from a drop down. You can go ahead and request that, and then a description of the concern or issue. Be as descriptive as you can. The more information that's given to them, the better it will be that they can start to address your problem. Once you hit the save button, you will come up with a second screen, and that second screen will allow you to upload a screenshot, which can be very, very helpful. They may even ask you for one, but it will also give you access to what they call working notes. And so, working notes is a way that they communicate with you. When you first submit a ticket, you will get an email from them saying that they've received your ticket, so you know that that's been submitted. And anytime they put in a working note, they will say that you have a working note, please look at your ticket. But you might want to check back every so often to see if they are communicating with you for additional information that may be needed or a resolution, whatever it might be. So that's how that ticket works. I'm going to go back up to the top menu and I'm going to click on Admin Tools. And so Admin Tools is for the program administrator. If you don't see this on your playground, that means you do not have a user ID that is assigned to a program admin, and that's okay. What program admins can do, they can add new users. Just selected the new user button. You can put in their information. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. But what I want to talk about are the user roles. You have a program admin that can be assigned program read-only access so the person can look, but they can't enter. Program staff, those are your folks that are usually working one-on-one with clients or with staff to get data into the system or out of the system. And then a program supervisor. A program supervisor has the same level of access as program staff. There are some programs where a program supervisor is the only one who can perform a specific function. That doesn't apply to you. So that's how that works. Um, I want to go now to reports. And reports, here is the reports builder. There are 13 different reports that can be run. I'm just going to show you a couple of them just so you can see. So I'm going to click on active clients. You can select a date range, or you can put in a start and end date. So I'm just doing for the beginning of October till to today. And just keep in mind that even though I put a range of dates, that if a client was on any of those dates, they will show on this report. So if a client came in on October 3rd and then they decided against the program on October 10th, they would be in here if they were enrolled into the program and then the enrollment was closed. So I can also sort this list. So I might say I might want to do it by enrollment date in ascending order, and then I can click on that go button, and then that will go out and get that information for active enrollments during that particular time. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this bar and bring it over because this is a pretty wide report. And right on the screen, I can see the entire report. I can move these columns around. Some of the columns do have those blue buttons that will allow you to sort them. And so you can see other kinds of information, about the report, who it's been assigned to, who hasn't been assigned, etc. The next report I want to show you is the client units. So I'm going to click on client units. I'm going to do the same date range from October 1st to the 17th. And now that I have that, I can click on go. And that will go out and get those client units that have been added to the system during that time period. I also have that bar in the bottom. I can go ahead and bring that over. It'll show you the source. Most of this is coming from Event Profile. We do have one enrollment unit that had been added. And then the units amount, it shows you the author. So it looks pretty much like I was the only one who was putting in the units and then who the assigned worker is. So one of the things that I know can be helpful to folks in my talking about them is to see for a specific author. And so the way you can do that, you can download it, and I'll show you in a minute, but you can also add a filter. And so what kind of a filter do you want to add? Well, I'm looking for the author or the created by units. I can say that it's equal to or it contains the following value. In this case, it would be my name. And so I would only want to see um, clients who have units that I dealt with, which would give me a sense of how many units I've put in. And so this would probably be very similar to the report because it was only me that was doing it. But I can export the report. And I could click on export, and that lets me know that the export process has been initiated. And when I want to go and look at that report, I click on this tab here. And then you can see the report that was created. This is for the Social Adult Day program. And I have a choice here of downloading the report or viewing details. So let me go ahead and view those details. And it shows me that information here. And then also the report is here that I can open. It is a CSV, so I can download that to Excel and go ahead and sort and do all the things that I need to do with the report. Now, just keep in mind that for um, for these reports, that generally they only stay about a day. So just keep that in mind. So that is the reports builder. Before I show you the last thing, I want to go back to closing enrollments. So I'm going back to my dashboard to get my client, Joanne Brown, and I'm going to click on that link that takes me right to the enrollment page so I can show you the closing enrollment. So I can click on the closing enrollment button. Today's date is the date. I select the code for why she's being closed. I'm just going to say other reason not listed, and I'm going to just put for demonstration purposes, really at this point. And I can go ahead and click on that save button. You would put a lot more that would represent why that person is being closed. And I go ahead and click save. Tells me I've acted, I've done it right. It shows a red flag that this has been marked, inactive or closed at this point. And if I go to the enrollment details, I will also see at the bottom the closing information that was put in. And then I'm going to come over here to status history at the end of the enrollments menu to show you how a record is created and that the new status is inactive, and that happened today as well. So that is VIVÉ. The last thing I want to bring to your attention is that more button and the support. And so this is the knowledge base that's available to you now. You can take it right out of the playground or in the production site. Um, this knowledge base will not only have your program standards here, but it also has other information, guides, and videos. These videos are maybe 2 or 3 minutes long. They're not very long videos, but they're to the point. so that if you wanted to go back and how did enrollment work, show me events again, you can see that here. And then on the right side, program guides, it has, your program guide here, social adult day services. It takes you to this page where you will see the entire program guide for your program, as well as bringing over a lot of those things that we just saw. That is a big part of your entire program guide. Another tab that'll be really very helpful is the service bulletin. So you can click on that here. The service bulletin is where we'll be updating, information about um, fixes, updates, workaround, resolutions, things that you would need to know. You'll probably be notified by email, or at least your program director would, but you can always check here to see what is going on. So I'm going to close this tab. I'm going to come back to the VIVÉ and just say that again, you know, using those supports is going to be really helpful. I wish you well. I think that you will see that as time goes on, that there's a lot of things that VIVÉ will be able to do to help make it easy for you to be effective and efficient in your work. Thanks for getting this far with me, and I wish you well.